You're listening to Ask Dr. Jake. My name is Dr. Jake Tucker. I'm the owner and founder of Good Life Family Chiropractic here on the south side of Lincoln. And I'm coming to you today with another message of hope, health, and wholeness. And I wanted to just reach out to you. If you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you are struggling with health issues or concerns, if you've got pain that you just cannot find an answer for, then pick up the phone and call my office, 531 289 7100. We're standing by to help you along. Take your phone call, answer any questions, and see how we can help you. And for the first 5 callers today, we'll be giving you a 50% discount to come into the office. But really, so many of us are dealing with issues out of ignorance, just not knowing what it means to be healthy, just basing our health, just like everyone else does, off of how we feel. And then when our health starts to go, because we've been basing our health on a lie, on a misinformation, then we start to suffer and start to lose that life faster. And right now we're sitting at about 42 years of decreased life expectancy beyond what God promised. When he said in Genesis that he would limit man's years to 120, how many of us are getting there? Very few. The average American's life expectancy is 78 right now, and most of us are afraid to get there. And if we were Moses right now, that would mean that before God even lit that bush on fire in the wilderness while he was tending sheep, that we would have died as a shepherd, living an unfulfilled life as a murderer. But God, what did God do? God redeemed him. He called him out of that desert and into Egypt to deliver the people of Israel into the promised land. And some of you are sitting there right now and you've given up on life because of all the health problems that you're going through. But I am a firm believer in this, that if God has given you breath, that he has a purpose and a plan for you still, so long as you embrace it. Now, is it too late in some cases? Yes, it is. And I've seen people where it's too late. But until we go in and we test and we see how much function is left, we won't know what that is. And so that's what we do here in this office. I had a young lady come in, just about 40 years old. She's been dealing with back issues for her lifetime. About 15 years ago, she was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. And that shouldn't have been a surprise to her, because about 25 years ago, she was diagnosed with a scoliosis that was bad enough that the surgeon said, we need to put rods in your spine immediately. Thank goodness her parents intervened and they said, no, we don't want to do that. Let's try everything else first. And they did. They tried a lot of things. This young lady's been going to a chiropractor for years. But when I saw her the other day, she was dealing with severe pain, sciatica, because of this degenerative disc disease. But all of that stemming, the degenerative disc disease, not from any genetic malfunction, but because of simple biomechanics, simply Wolff's Law in action. Wolff's Law states that any joint that's out of alignment is going to degenerate. Degenerative disc disease or osteoarthritis or whatever you want to call it, it will degenerate at a rate of 7% per year. So based off of the amount of alignment or misalignment and inflammation in that joint, it degenerates at a rate of 7% per year. This gal has a really bad scoliosis. So how do you expect the discs in that spine to function? Well, they're going to have abnormal pressures and stress, and they're going to wear out, and they're going to herniate. And eventually we're at the point now where the disc itself has ruptured and the liquid material is wanting to spill out. That's called a herniated disc. We don't want to let it get there. And so it's very important that we maintain our spine. Maintenance care in chiropractic is the least expensive care that you can think of, but we all know that. An ounce of prevention is always worth a pound of cure. Always. So long as you do that prevention right. And what does prevention look like? Well, it means moving your spine daily. There's specific exercises that we teach our patients to do on a daily basis, whether your spine hurts or does not hurt. We use these exercises to keep the spine as healthy as possible, to keep it moving, to keep it from being able to degenerate into something like degenerative disc disease or osteoarthritis. We also do traction. Traction helps to open up the disc spaces in the neck and rehydrate those so that you can maintain proper motion. One of the first ranges of motion that I see leave the spine is the ability of a person or a patient to bring their ear to their shoulder because of a lack of lateral flexion. When you can't do that, it starts to decrease the ability of the brain to process information. And most of that is because of degenerative disc disease. The step before that is usually a popping and cracking. Sometimes that popping and cracking hurts, sometimes it feels great, but that's a sign that something is out of alignment. It's building up a gas, a nitrogen gas inside that disc space. And when you move it, it actually releases that. The step before that is just a little bit of neck stiffness, maybe a little bit of neck tightness. Some people will get neck pain in this step, but they'll just take a muscle relaxer, an anti-inflammatory to make the pain go away, never identifying the cause of the problem in the first place. And so wherever you're at in that process, whether you just want to maintain a healthy spine, which means that we need to establish that you have a healthy spine first, or you're dealing with a little bit of neck pain and it's popping and cracking, or if it's full blown, you've lost that range of motion, the ability of your body to bring your ear to your shoulder, bending it over to the side. Let's start with an exam. Let's see where you're at in that process, and let's begin to work that backwards. This is the same thing we did with this young lady yesterday. We started her off, we did a posture check and a range of motion check, and all of the motions in her spine were painful, which tells me that it's not just her back that's bad. And what we found is because of the exam findings and the digital nerve scan that we needed to take an x-ray of her neck, and what we found on that was that the curve in her neck had fully reversed. It wasn't a 45-degree curve from the side. It was actually going backwards the other way, stretching out and damaging her spinal cord. No wonder it hurt when she moved. It wasn't muscles, it wasn't ligaments, it wasn't tendons, it wasn't even the bones, it wasn't the spine that hurt. It was what it was supposed to protect underneath that was hurting and damaging. And when you have that, it increases your risk of a neurologically degenerative condition by as much as 50%, just by losing the curve in your neck because of the pathological tension that it places on the spinal cord. And so we want to maintain that curve. We want to prevent that curve from being lost. If it comes in and we lose that curve, to fix that right away. One of the most common things that I see is someone suffered a whiplash type trauma and they've lost that curve and then they don't do anything about it. They just leave it there. Or they wait until a more convenient time. And by that time it's set in and it's become a much more expensive process. And when it doesn't work out in their time table or time frame or their schedule, they just go to a surgeon and they get it fused. And then those fusions, they work for about 10 years. And then you need another neck surgery because the segments above or below, they start to fail. And this is the process, the merry-go-round that we get in with neck pain, back pain, and headaches. It's the reason why the average case of neck pain or back pain in this country costs 80 grand to take care of. A back surgery is $100,000 by itself. Your cortisone injections, what are they doing? They're wearing out the disc. It degenerates the disc even further. It blocks the pain for a little while. What did they do with this young lady yesterday? Just 2 weeks ago, they did a nerve ablation. They went in there with basically a hot rod and they stuck it on the nerve. They burned it until it died, hoping that by killing the nerve that it wouldn't feel bad anymore. What else is that nerve doing? Well, it's providing life and health and vitality to the organs of the surrounding tissues. Don't cover up the symptom anymore. Stop that way of thinking. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you can test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Is an adjustment the answer to this young lady's health? No, an adjustment won't fix this, but proper care for her spine, proper nutrition, proper exercise will restore her back to health, will help her discs heal. When we detox, when we do exercise, when we eat the right foods, when we get a chiropractic adjustment, it allows the intelligence inside of our central nervous system that God created, that God placed there, that heals us on a daily basis, that creates a health that keeps our heart beating and our lungs breathing and heals a cut on our leg without us doing anything. When we do those things, that is enabled and it allows us to heal. And that's the process we want to go through. And if you haven't gone through that process, then we need to start with that exam. So pick up the phone and call my office right now, 531-289-7100. And we're standing by to take your phone call. We're here to help you. We'll walk you through what that process looks like, the exam, the digital nerve scan, any necessary x-rays, the first adjustment when we sit down and go through the recommendations after we've finalized those with you and your spouse together so that we can get you on the same page to know exactly what it's going to take to get you healing and get you functioning for the first time maybe. And that starts with that phone call. So again, 531-289-7100. And for those of you that miss out on that 50% discount, go to our website, goodlifefamilychiropractic.com, and sign up for a free virtual consultation. Schedule that into our schedule, and we'll make sure that you get the opportunity to speak with me about what your health is going through, what you're going through, and what those obstacles are, and how we overcome that. And I'm here. I'm the only 5 Essentials certified chiropractor in the state of Nebraska, the only one that knows how to take you through this from a full 5 Essentials perspective. We have 350 offices across the country. You know, the Southeast, Florida has a bunch of them. The Carolinas have a bunch of them. California has several. Denver has a bunch. But here in Nebraska, I am your office. I am your access to the 5 Essentials, and I want to be there for you. And so I am. I'm standing by waiting to speak with you today. So pick up that phone, call my office, 531-289-7100. And if you haven't heard, this is the exact thing that saved my son's life. He was just normal day for him, going down for his nap. He was in daycare. He went from his back to his stomach, as he likes to do. And as he did so, he let out a squawk. By the time the daycare worker got over there to check on him, he had quit breathing and was non-responsive. She freaked out. She resuscitated him. It took her 2 rounds of rescue breathing and CPR to get there. By the time the EMTs got there, he was breathing, but he was struggling to breathe and he was shaking. He was actually having a seizure. And so they transported him to the hospital, St. E's here in Lincoln, where they had just started to triage him and see what was going on when I got there. My wife called me. She said, Zeke, he's not breathing. And so I met her at the hospital. And when I walked in, I saw the exact same thing happening on the table. He was struggling to breathe. He was seizing. And so I went over to him as I was listening to everything that had happened. And I just instinctively put my hands on his neck. And when I did so, I felt the top bone in his neck, atlas, which is supposed to be protecting your brainstem and your cranial nerves. It was shoved off to the side such that it was cutting off the flow of life between his lungs and his brain and his cells, tissues, and organs in his brain. And so I started to massage that back into place. This pediatric adjustment is so much different than what you've probably seen on TV or on YouTube. But we adjusted that back into place. And as I did so, his body began to relax. His life began to restore. He started breathing normally. He stopped seizing, and he has not had a seizure since. He has not had any other health issues. In fact, we went through Children's, we went through St. E's, we saw all the specialists, and every single one of them remarked at how healthy he was and wondered where this type of thing could have come from, just smiling at me and nodding while I told them exactly what I found. If you're ready to have someone not ignore you anymore and to give you hope again, pick up the phone, call my office, 531-289-7100. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. We'll see you for another episode of Ask Dr. Jake.